Hello and welcome to this week's Wildlife Matters podcast. And today we're celebrating the Winter Solstice and its connection with nature. As the crisp air turns colder and daylight begins to wane, the Winter Solstice emerges as a significant turning point in our annual calendar. This celestial event, marking the shortest day and the longest night of the year, invites us to pause and reflect on its profound significance and the deeper connections we share with the natural world. With roots in ancient cultures and traditions, the winter solstice has been celebrated across continents for centuries. It serves as a powerful reminder of life's cyclical nature. It is a moment when the sun reaches its lowest point in the sky, casting long shadows and ushering in the enveloping darkness of night. Yet, symbolically, this day represents the triumph of light over darkness, igniting hope and resilience within us as we anticipate the gradual return of the sun. The winter solstice embodies the rebirth of light, heralding the sun's return. It signifies a crucial transition, the shift from darkness to light. As the days begin to lengthen, we are reminded of the slow resurgence of warmth and life, urging us to embrace the feelings of hope and renewal that spring forth as nature awakens. This season calls for introspection, encouraging individuals and communities alike to take a step back, reflect on their journeys, express gratitude for the harvest of the past year, and to set intentions for the seasons ahead. For generations, people have marked this celestial occurrence through vibrant rituals, meaningful ceremonies, and joyous festivities, celebrating the profound interplay between the cosmos and our Earth. So, as we find ourselves at this remarkable juncture, let's embrace the spirit of the winter solstice, a time to honour our past, welcome the light, and nurture our connection to the world around us. Today, we are sharing two stories from folklore with you, which we told to a live audience around a campfire deep in the dark forest just a few nights ago. So make yourself comfortable as we share the story of St. Mungo, the patron saint of the city of Glasgow, with one of the most famous stories from the 6th century, which is called St. Mungo and the Robin. It's on this week's Wildlife Matters Winter Solstice Special. The fire is crackling and the wassail cider is flowing. So please take a seat around the campfire and we will begin our winter solstice tales. Today we are sharing a traditional Scottish folk tale about St. Mungo, a 6th century missionary who became the patron saint of Glasgow. St. Mungo's story is a captivating blend of myth and history, a testament to the enchanting cultural tapestry of Glasgow that continues to shape its identity and community spirit to this day. As tourists explore the vibrant streets of Glasgow, they often encounter the iconic image of a wise, grey-haired monk, St. Mungo. His cultural significance draws visitors in, forging a connection to the city's rich and storied past. St. Mungo is known for 4 miracles, referred to as the robin, the bell, the tree, and the fish. These stories teach children about kindness, faith, and inspire them to lead virtuous lives. Today we will focus on one of those 4 tales, which is called St. Mungo and the Robin. One day, while walking along the banks of a wide river, St. Cerf spotted a small coracle bobbing on the waves. As he looked closer, he could see inside the coracle was a young woman who was struggling to paddle to shore because she was tightly clutching a baby to her chest. Realising the woman needed help, St. Cerf waded into the river, grasped the boat and pulled it to safety up onto a pebble beach. The woman in the boat turned out to be King Loth's daughter. She'd been banished for having a child out of wedlock, and she had been cast adrift, but St. Cerf welcomed her, and they named the baby Mungo, which means dear one. As the boy grew, he joined St. Cerf's school, where he quickly proved to be an exceptional student. Mungo approached every task St. Cerf set him with enthusiasm and style. He learned lessons faster than anyone else, reciting them flawlessly and without hesitation. He tackled every problem effortlessly and always sang the most beautiful notes in the choir, his voice soaring in perfect harmony. And St. Cerf admired him greatly. But sadly, Mungo's classmates were not as kind, and in fact, you could say that they were jealous of Mungo. Despite being teased by his classmates, Mungo stayed true to his honest and kind nature. And he encouraged others to view honesty as a strength, earning respect from the adults. Rather than retaliating, Mungo's kind-heartedness wore down his classmates' efforts to provoke him. And eventually, they grew tired of trying to upset him. Instead, they began devising more elaborate schemes to get him into trouble. Weeks passed, and their obsession with Mungo distracted them from their studies. Soon, one of them proposed a risky idea involving fire. You see, in those days, starting a fire was not an easy thing. You had to spin a stick rapidly against a piece of wood until it sparked, and then catch that spark on tinder, and then coax it into a flame. During the damp winter months, it could take forever to get a fire going. So, to avoid all that hassle, the school kept a fire burning continuously in its massive main fireplace. The boys took turns tending the fire, knowing full well that if it went out overnight, the next morning would be cold and they'd have no warm food or light for their morning prayers. If any boy let the fire die, St. Cerf would be furious. That night, it was Mungo's turn to tend the fire. Despite feeling tired and cold, Mungo got up from his warm, comfortable bed to tend the fire. But as soon as he entered the grand hall, he knew that something was wrong. When he arrived at the fireplace, he found only cold, ashy remnants of what had once been a roaring fire. Someone had clearly put the fire out, as the ash was clumpy as if water had been poured on it. Mungo realised that the other boys were likely responsible, but he knew he would be the one blamed for what had happened. So, determined to fix the situation, he grabbed a fresh log, but he knew he needed kindling to reignite the flames. Dressed only in his nightshirt and barefooted, Mungo unlocked the heavy oak door from the main hall and raced across the frost-covered ground to a nearby hazel tree. He snapped off a small branch, and to his surprise, it ignited as he struck it against the cold air. Startled, Mungo hurried back inside without dropping the blazing branch and put it into the hearth. Almost instantly, the flames danced around the log and were soon filling the hall with warmth and light. Satisfied, Mungo tiptoed back to bed, feeling a mix of relief and a little bit of pride. The next morning, the other boys were up before sunrise. They had rehearsed their story, prepared to lie that they had gone to bed, leaving the fire burning. Excited and some smirking, they rushed into the great hall. only to freeze in their tracks when they saw a bright fire crackling away. Mungo walked by them, carrying a lit taper to light the candles for the morning service in the chapel. It was at that moment the other boys felt deeper resentment towards Mungo for constantly thwarting their plans and reflecting their own insecurities back to them. St. Cerf shared a special bond with all of nature's creatures, particularly a little robin he had rescued as a nestling. This tiny bird would happily eat breadcrumbs straight from his hand and often perched on St. Cerf's shoulder while he sang hymns in church, adding its own sweet warble to the melodies. One morning, the boys concocted a new plan to get Mungo into trouble. They lured the tiny robin into the courtyard with a trail of breadcrumbs, and then, making sure that no one was watching, they caught the robin and they killed it. Once they had killed the bird, they rushed to St. Cerf, crying, "Look at what Mungo has done. Have you ever known such a cruel boy?" A couple of them even claimed that they had seen Mungo deliver the fatal blow. St. Cerf was upset and set off to find Mungo, with the boys trailing behind him with smug expressions all over their faces. Mungo was deep in his studies, his head buried in a book as usual, when he noticed St. Cerf approaching with a small bundle in his outstretched hand. As he got closer, Mungo realised with horror that it contained the dead robin. "Oh no!" Mungo gasped. "Oh yes," said St. Cerf. "Mungo, you know how much I love this robin. How could you do this? And why have you killed the robin?" Mungo's cheeks flushed red. Being unfairly accused of such a terrible deed felt like too much, even for his good nature to bear. "I didn't hurt the robin," he said. "I loved it, just like you do." "You killed it," shouted one of the boys, "and I saw you," chimed in another. Mungo turned pleadingly to St. Cerf. "Please believe me, I would never hurt your robin." St. Cerf wanted to believe Mungo, but the chorus of accusations from the other boys made it hard. "If you're innocent, Mungo, you must prove it," St. Cerf said firmly. With tears welling in his eyes, Mungo gently took the robin from his teacher's hands and carefully placed the bird's head back onto its body. A fat tear rolled down Mungo's cheek and landed on the bird's severed neck. It was soon followed by more tears. And the more Mungo wept, something magical began to happen. As his tears fell onto the lifeless robin, slowly, its head reattached itself. The robin's feathers ruffled as if they'd been kissed by a breeze, and the robin opened its small, shiny black eyes, gazing up at Mungo. With a chirp, the bird came back to life. Mungo gasped with joy and set the robin gently on the ground. It flapped its wings and flew right to St. Cerf's shoulder, bursting into song. The other boys couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. They felt scared and wanted to run away, but St. Cerf told them to stand still. They found it hard to ignore the cheerful chirping of the robin, and Mungo glanced at St. Cerf and wiped his tears, feeling them transform from sadness into happiness. And from that day forward, St. Cerf never doubted Mungo again, and the boys who had lied were justly punished. With St. Cerf by his side, Mungo went on to accomplish many brave and extraordinary feats, eventually becoming a saint himself. And yet, he never forgot that little robin, and throughout his life, the robin saved its most beautiful songs just for him. Although St. Mungo lived around 1400 years ago, his impact on Glasgow is as vibrant today as ever. Each January, the city pulses with energy during a lively festival that pays tribute to this beloved figure. The St Mungo Festival spans 11 days, transforming Glasgow into a hub of culture and excitement. From dynamic musical performances that get your feet tapping to thought-provoking lectures that delve into the rich history, to storytellers sharing their tales of the holy man and the city. There's something here for everyone. But the festival isn't just a celebration of St Mungo's life. It's a reflection of Glasgow's spirited community, and it beckons locals and visitors alike to dive into the magic of this city's past while fostering connections among its people. So mark your calendars. The St Mungo Festival kicks off each year on January the 13th. It's a great time to explore and get to know the incredible and wonderful city of Glasgow. We hope you enjoyed the enchanting tale of St Mungo and the Robin. This story beautifully encapsulates how nature connection practices are often woven into the fabric of the winter solstice, highlighting the profound bond between humans and the natural world. In various shamanic traditions, indigenous rituals, and earth-based spiritual practices, the winter solstice is celebrated as a decisive moment for spiritual renewal. It offers a chance to realign ourselves with the rhythms of nature, reminding us of our vital place in the grand tapestry of existence. Many ceremonies linked to this celestial event revolve around the theme of light, whether it's the flickering of candles, the dancing flames of bonfires, or symbolic representations of the sun. These rituals resonate deeply within us. They act as poignant metaphors shining light on the darkness, both inside ourselves and in the world around us, symbolising hope, renewal, and the promise of new beginnings. The winter solstice encourages us to embrace mindfulness and deepen our appreciation for the subtle changes in our environment. From the gentle whispers of winter winds to the magical frost-kissed landscapes that shimmer in the pale sunlight. This season invites us to appreciate the tranquil beauty that surrounds us. Nature becomes a canvas for introspection and self-discovery, urging us to embrace stillness and find solace in winter's serene embrace. Now, it's time to share our second story. Like many rich tales from folklore, this one carries a warning, a timeless reminder of the wisdom of our ancestors passed down through many generations. So, if you are ready, then please join us for our second story of this evening of solstice celebration, which is called The Goat and the Strawberries. Our second story is called The Goat and the Strawberries. It is a traditional folktale told around the solstice when people would celebrate with feasting. But it is a clear message not to be greedy and to take only what you need. Once upon a time, a young brother and sister lived with their grandmother in a small cottage at the edge of a village nestled in the rolling hills. They had lost both their parents and struggled financially, often finding it difficult to put food on their table. Their clothes were well-worn hand-me-downs, patched together repeatedly. And yet, despite these daily challenges, they were rich in one crucial area: good manners. While they may not have had many material possessions or basic necessities, their politeness and respect for others always shone through. To get by, the children foraged in the woods and fields around the village, only taking what they needed for that day's meals or to feed their goat, who provided them with a small amount of milk each day. Their grandmother taught them to be polite to everyone they encountered, always saying please and thank you, and to never be greedy. She reminded them that good manners don't cost anything. As a result, both children were well behaved, polite, and always ready to lend a hand to their neighbours. Because of their kindness and respect, the other villagers often shared food with them. It's not that the other villagers were wealthy, though, so the food they shared was things such as cabbage leaves and the occasional turnip, a few carrots for some soup, or maybe the crust of bread that would have otherwise gone to the birds. But no matter what they received, they were always grateful and said thank you. They were never greedy or ungrateful for even the smallest of food scraps. Every morning, the brother and sister would take their goat down to the farm track through the hedgerows. The goat had long ago eaten all the grass in their grandmother's garden, so they had to find fresh grass and wild flowers for it every day. And every evening, the goat gave just enough milk for each of them to enjoy a small glass, which they would eat with an oat biscuit before they went to bed. Every day they had to rush past their neighbour's farm because he was a mean and grumpy old man. If he saw the goat munching near his land, he would come charging out of his farmhouse shouting, "Get off my land! I own all of this. The hedgerow, the grass, the wild flowers, they're all mine. Go away." He was so mean that if they didn't escape quickly enough, he would unleash his dog and set it upon them. One summer morning, after the angry farmer's dog had chased them down the country lanes for what seemed like hours, their goat dashed under a fence and into the forbidden woods, known by the villagers as the wood folk or the sylvan. Brother and sister called out after their beautiful white goat. "You mustn't eat anything in the woods," they called her. They had heard villagers say you should always be polite and know when to stop eating in the wood to avoid upsetting the sylvan. Sylvan Wood was a stunning and magical place that held a big secret. The sylvan or wood folk lived there, and anyone who dared to take from their woods or acted greedily, something bad would happen. The goat understood the children's concern, but continued to munch since the food was delicious and it hadn't eaten well for many, many days. The children called out, "Excuse us, we're so sorry about our goat. It's wandered into your woods. The grass is so green and she's very hungry. Please, can we come into the woods and get her?" Unseen by the children, the sylvan were quietly watching the goat from their hidden spots in the woods, eager to see what would happen next. After a few minutes, the girl could take no more and she ducked under the fence to get the goat. Her brother quickly followed. To their surprise, when they looked around, they realised the goat hadn't been eating grass at all, but rather big, juicy red strawberries. And the sweet strawberry juice was dripping down her chin and her goatee beard was stained red. "Oh no," said the children. "Is our goat being greedy? We need to stop her before we get into trouble with the sylvan." The fragrant aroma of strawberries filled the air, and the children felt their mouths water and their stomachs rumble. It had been days since they had tasted anything as sweet as a ripe strawberry. "Dear Sylvan, could we please have a few of your ripe strawberries to eat?" the sister called out. "It's been way too long since we had anything sweet. Please, just a few," shouted the brother. Of course, the sylvan remained silent, simply watching as the children picked a small handful of strawberries and sat cross-legged on the ground, savouring every juicy bite. To their surprise, after finishing their handful, the children didn't try and grab more, but instead they wiped their mouths and called out together, "Thank you so much for the lovely strawberries. That's enough to keep us going," was something their grandmother always said when they were serving dinner. When the children began leading their goat back towards the edge of the woods, feeling grateful for the kindness of the sylvan and for the tasty, sweet strawberries. As they reached the edge of the strawberry patch, the little girl asked, "Could we pick a few strawberries for our granny who's at home? She would be so grateful for such sweet, delicious and juicy berries." So the children did pick just 2 small handfuls each, enough to fill their pockets, and then they thanked the sylvan once again for their kindness and for the tasty strawberries. Sylvan was so impressed by the children's good manners and their lack of greed that they decided to give them a bit of luck and magic from the woodlands to take home with them. When the children arrived home with the goat, they hurried to the door to give their granny her share of the strawberries. But as they did, one of the strawberries fell out of the girl's pocket and rolled into the middle of the garden. Immediately, it grew deep roots, lush green leaves, and the biggest, ripest strawberries anyone had ever seen. And the plant continued to grow, spreading in all directions, and by tea time, the entire garden was covered in fresh red strawberries. And it didn't matter how many strawberries the goat would eat, there were always enough left for the family for breakfast, lunch, and tea. Granny and the children were so excited that they shared strawberries with all their friends and neighbours in the village. And their neighbours were happy to share some of their bread, vegetables and other food, knowing that they would receive a bowl of fresh strawberries in return. When winter arrived and a thick blanket of snow covered the garden and the entire village, everyone was amazed to see the strawberry plants continue to grow and produce their sweet fruits. One snowy, cold winter's morning, the mean farmer was passing by the garden and he noticed the red berries peeking through the snow. "They must be my strawberries. I'm sure they have stolen them from my fields in the summer and hidden them here under the snow," he said, even though he knew that that could not be true. The children and Granny knew what he would do. The farmer walked into their garden and began to gorge himself on the strawberries. He ate every strawberry in the garden and he asked for more. He was so mean and so greedy that he didn't even say thank you. Now, of course, Granny and the children were not too worried, as they knew that a fresh crop would grow back again later that evening. "I want more," roared the greedy man, stamping his big boots in the snow. "But you've eaten them all," said Granny. "I'm sure you have more in the cottage and you must give them to me." "No, we don't have any more. We only take what we need," said the girl. "You will find some in Sylvan Woods," said the boy. "But you must remember to be polite to the Sylvan," added his sister. "And don't forget to say please and thank you," said Granny. "And be sure you stop when you've had enough," they all called out to the farmer. But it was too late. He couldn't hear them and was already halfway down the lane leading to the magical Sylvan Wood. As he entered the woods, he forgot all about politeness, moderation, and his limited manners. He just kept eating and eating, not pausing to say please or thank you. As he continued to gorge himself, something strange began to happen. He laughed contemptuously as he devoured handful after handful of ripe, red strawberries. The Sylvan watched from their secret hiding spots. They were not at all happy with the rude, greedy behaviour of this mean farmer. The farmer kept eating all day. His shirt was stained red with the juice of the ripe strawberries that dripped off his chin, and his hands were sticky and sweet. Even though his belly was full and had started to ache, the mean farmer kept on eating throughout all of Monday Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and even Saturday. But by the following Sunday, he couldn't stop eating, even though he now wanted to, because the Sylvan, who were quite angry by now, had cast a spell upon him, making it impossible for him to stop eating. On that Sunday, the greedy farmer had consumed so many juicy strawberries that he looked like an enormous ripe strawberry himself. Until suddenly, boom, he bursts, exploding into a million tiny seeds that you see on every strawberry berry. This is the story of a rude man who refused to say the simple words please or thank you. He didn't share. He had lost touch with kindness. His excessive indulgence knew no bounds, and he was insatiable, and his greed created discontent among the whimsical folk of the woods. These enchanted beings, guardians of nature's treasures, felt deeply offended by his selfishness. There are vital lessons here in humility and respect. The children and their wise granny found joy in the simple pleasures of life. They thrived in a vibrant garden, forever adorned with plump, juicy strawberries that glistened in the sun like rubies. Together with the village neighbours, they flourished, their hearts full of gratitude and their spirits uplifted by the valuable lessons that they had learned. With every bite of sweet fruit, they reminisced about the magic and the kindness of sharing. The winter solstice, the longest night and shortest day of the year, has always held great significance for people around the world, symbolising renewal and hope, and representing the sun's death and rebirth. This time of year inspires stories about darkness giving way to light. Storytelling traditions celebrate this magical transition, honouring the Earth's regeneration and the anticipation of longer days ahead. In modern times, the solstice serves as the poignant backdrop for themes of community, resilience and healing during the coldest, darkest part of the year. It's a time for cosy gatherings, the joys of sharing gifts and embracing the warmth of human connection as we welcome new beginnings. Around this longest night, communities traditionally come together around a crackling fire, sharing good food, drink and laughter as they celebrate the harvest and reflect on the hard work of the past year, creating a sense of belonging and warmth that nurtures resilience and connection. On this solstice night, we continue the tradition and celebrate our ancestors. And together, we gather to share a delicious meal and exchange stories rich with wisdom and insights from our ancestors. The act of sharing not only nourishes our bodies, but also strengthens our cultural heritage, passing down valuable lessons that have endured throughout generations. As we draw our stories to a close, we gather in a space filled with warmth and connection, savouring the delightful flavours of our shared meal and the bonds of community. And as you step into the new year, we invite you to carry the glow of this evening, a reminder of the hope and promise that come with new beginnings. Let this special solstice night inspire you to embrace the possibilities that lie ahead. And that is the perfect place to conclude our winter solstice storytelling. May your dreams be bright and your hearts full. Good night. The winter solstice is a time to reflect on balance, introspection, and our connection to nature. As we gather for festive feasts, it's important to remember our ancestors' wisdom regarding good manners, and the pitfalls of greed and gluttony. This longest night of the year invites us to embrace the darkness, not with fear, but as an opportunity for personal growth and contemplation. Many traditions emphasize the importance of this phase in healing and renewal, reminding us of life's cyclical nature. And as we move toward the returning light, we see a symbol of hope and new beginnings. The gradual increase in daylight encourages us to appreciate both the light and dark in our lives, each playing a vital role in our journey. Throughout the bustling holiday period, let's carve out moments for serenity through practices like meditation, journaling, or simply being present in nature. This intentional reflection fosters a deeper awareness of ourselves and our bond with nature and wildlife. The season also calls for communal gatherings and celebrations. Whether through solstice ceremonies or bonfire storytelling, these traditions strengthen our connections with each other and the natural world. In our fast-paced lives, revisiting the significance of the winter solstice helps us realign with nature's rhythms, embrace introspection, and celebrate the cycles of growth and rebirth. As we stand on the brink of darkness and light, let's embrace the winter solstice with open hearts, igniting hope, renewal, and gratitude for the magnificent design of nature. Thank you for joining the Wildlife Matters Winter Solstice special. If you enjoyed this storytelling special, we'd love to hear from you. And for those interested in more nature-based storytelling, then don't forget to tune into our podcast, The Nature Storyteller, which releases new stories on the third Sunday of each month. Wildlife Matters will return in 2 weeks when we will be looking at the magic of murmuration. And that is an episode you won't want to miss. So please do like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until then, solstice blessings and wishing you a very Merry Christmas. Stay curious, wild ones. This is Wildlife Matters signing off.